The fluorescent lights of Grady Memorial Hospital's ICU had been my reality for the past 48 hours straight. My feet were screaming in my nursing shoes, my back ached from lifting patients, and my eyes burned from exhaustion. But I kept going because that's what I did. That's what I'd always done. My name is Imani Robinson. I'm 34 years old and I've been a registered nurse for 12 years. People say I have kind eyes and a gentle touch, which is why patients request me specifically. What they don't see is the woman who goes home to a husband who hasn't worked in 3 years, a mother-in-law who treats her like hired help, and a bank account that never seems to have enough no matter how many double shifts I pull. It was 11:47 p.m. when I finally clocked out. The Atlanta summer heat hit me like a wall when I walked out of the hospital, even at midnight. My 2015 Honda Civic sat in the back of the employee lot, looking as tired as I felt. The air conditioning had been broken for 6 months, but I couldn't afford to fix it. Not when I was sending $1,500 a month to help take care of Big Mama Pearl. Big Mama Pearl, my husband Deshaun's grandmother. The only person in his family who'd ever treated me like I mattered. She'd had a stroke 2 years ago, followed by what the doctors called rapid cognitive decline. Dementia, they said. She needed round-the-clock care, special medications, a specific diet. Deshaun and his mother Lorraine had begged me to help financially. What choice did I have? Big Mama had welcomed me into the family when no one else did. I drove through the quiet streets of Southwest Atlanta, past the closed storefronts and the corner boys still hustling despite the late hour. My neighborhood wasn't dangerous, but it wasn't safe either. It was just tired, like me. 23 minutes later, I pulled into the driveway of the small ranch house we shared with Lorraine and Big Mama. The house had belonged to Big Mama's late husband, and when he died 15 years ago, she let Deshaun and his mother move in. Then when Deshaun and I got married 5 years ago, we'd moved in too. Just until we save up for our own place, Deshaun had promised. That was 5 years and exactly $0 in savings ago. The first thing I noticed was the darkness. Every single light was off. That was strange. Lorraine always left the porch light on, constantly lecturing me about safety and presentation whenever I forgot. But tonight, the house looked abandoned. The second thing I noticed was the silence. No television blaring the news. No sound of Lorraine's voice on the phone with her church friends. No music from Deshaun's room where he spent his days playing video games and calling it networking for his business. Something felt wrong. I grabbed my purse and the bag of takeout I'd bought with my employee discount, leftover sandwiches that would be my meals for the next 2 days, and walked to the front door. My keys jingled in the silence as I unlocked the deadbolt. The smell hit me first. Stale air, old food, something else underneath, something sour and unpleasant. I fumbled for the light switch, my heart starting to pound. Click. The living room flooded with harsh yellow light from the old ceiling fixture. What I saw made my stomach drop. The place was trashed. Not robbed trashed, but lived in by people who don't care trashed. Empty chip bags littered the coffee table. Dirty dishes were stacked on every surface. The cushions from the couch were on the floor. A pizza box lay open with 3-day-old crusts growing fuzzy mold. "Deshaun?" I called out, my voice echoing in the strange emptiness. "Lorraine?" Silence. I moved through the living room toward the kitchen, my nursing instincts taking over. Something was very, very wrong. In the kitchen, the sink was full of dishes. The trash can was overflowing. And on the kitchen table, held down by a salt shaker, was a piece of notebook paper. My hands shook as I picked it up. The handwriting was Deshaun's, sloppy and rushed, like he couldn't be bothered to care. "Imani, me and Ma needed a break. We gone to Hilton Head for the week. You've been at the hospital anyway, so you probably didn't even notice. Deal with the old woman in the back. She got everything she need. Don't call us. We need this vacation. We've been stressed." I read it twice, then 3 times. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes, but not from sadness, from rage. They'd left. They'd gone on vacation, to Hilton Head, which wasn't cheap, and left Big Mama Pearl alone, a 78-year-old woman with dementia and limited mobility, alone in this house for God knows how long. The paper crumpled in my fist as I ran toward the back of the house, toward the converted garage where they'd moved Big Mama after her stroke. They'd said it was easier for her, being on the ground floor. I'd believed them. The door to her room was closed. I could smell the room before I even opened it. The sharp ammonia scent of old urine, the staleness of unwashed sheets, the rot of neglect. Big Mama! I pushed the door open. The room was dark, lit only by the moonlight filtering through the single small window. The air was thick and hot. The AC wasn't running. On the narrow hospital bed they'd gotten from Goodwill, a tiny figure lay motionless. My nurse training kicked in instantly. I flipped on the light, a bare bulb that made everything look even more terrible, and rushed to the bedside. Big Mama Pearl looked like she'd aged 20 years since I'd seen her 3 days ago. Her dark skin had an ashy grayish tone. Her lips were cracked and bleeding. Her thin frame was barely visible under a stained sheet. The bed pad beneath her was soaked with urine. No, 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 no. I pressed my fingers to her neck, searching for a pulse. It was there, weak and thready, but there. Her breathing was shallow, barely moving her chest. Dehydration, severe dehydration, possibly days without water. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed a glass and filled it with water, then grabbed a clean dishcloth. Back in the room, I gently lifted Big Mama's head. God, she was so light, like a bird, and pressed the wet cloth to her lips. Big Mama, it's Imani. I'm here. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. A drop of water slid between her cracked lips. Her throat moved reflexively, swallowing. I gave her another drop, then another. Tears ran down my face as I worked. How could they do this? How could Deshawn, her own grandson, leave her like this? How could Lorraine, who went to church every Sunday and Wednesday, who sang in the choir and served on the usher board, abandon her own mother-in-law to die alone? And how had I not known? How had I been so blind? I cleaned Big Mama's face gently, wiping away the dried saliva and the crust around her eyes. I needed to change her sheets, give her more water, maybe call an ambulance. Her hand moved. I froze. Big Mama's hand, the one that had been lying limp on the bed, lifted slowly. Her fingers, gnarled with arthritis, reached for my wrist. They closed around it with surprising strength. My breath caught. In the 2 years since her stroke, Big Mama had barely moved purposefully. The doctor said her motor control was severely compromised. Yet now she was gripping my wrist like she was holding on for dear life. Big Mama? I whispered. Can you hear me? Her eyes opened. Not the cloudy, unfocused eyes I'd gotten used to. Not the vacant stare that looked through me instead of at me. These eyes were sharp, clear, aware, and they were looking directly into mine with an intensity that made me shiver. Child, she said, her voice hoarse but steady, I've been waiting for you. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The woman I'd known as confused and barely verbal for 2 years was looking at me with perfect clarity. Big Mama? My voice came out as a squeak. You can talk? I never stopped talking, baby. They just stopped listening. She tried to sit up, wincing. Help me up. My back is killing me from laying here so long. My nursing training warred with my shock, but training won. I supported her back and helped her into a sitting position, propping pillows behind her. Her grip on my wrist never loosened. I don't understand, I said. The doctors said what I paid them to say. Big Mama's voice was getting stronger with each word. Well, what my lawyer paid them to say. Been running this little test for 2 years now, seeing who would show their true face, seeing who gave a damn about an old lady and who was just waiting for me to die. I sank onto the edge of the bed, my legs refusing to hold me anymore. You've been faking? For 2 years? Not faking exactly. The stroke was real. But the dementia? She tapped her temple with a bony finger. Acting. And child, I deserve an Oscar, don't I? But why? Why would you? Because I had to know. Her eyes hardened. I built something, Imani. Built it from nothing. From dirt and determination and more hard days than you've lived years. And I had to know if the people who carried my blood had any of my character, or if they were just vultures waiting to pick my bones clean. She released my wrist finally and pointed to a dresser in the corner. Third drawer from the bottom. Push it in, then pull it straight up. I did as she said, my hands shaking. The drawer lifted out of its track. Behind it, carved into the back panel of the dresser, was a small compartment. Inside was a wooden box, ornately carved and clearly expensive. Bring it here. The box was heavier than it looked. I set it on the bed beside her. Big Mama opened it with practiced ease. Inside were several small brown bottles with handwritten labels, some pills in a prescription bottle, and, my eyes widened, a small silver handgun. Calm down, Big Mama said, seeing my expression. Safety's on, and I know how to use it. Had to learn back in the 60s when running a business, while black meant certain people thought they could take what was yours. She pulled out one of the bottles and unscrewed the cap. This here is what's kept me clear-headed. Mix of herbs and medicine from a doctor I trust. The dementia medicine they've been giving me. I've been spitting it out soon as they leave the room. That stuff makes you foggy for real. She took a long drink from the bottle, grimacing at the taste. Now, we need to talk, and we don't have much time. They think I'm dead or dying, which means they'll probably cut their vacation short to come collect their inheritance. We got maybe 3-4 days to set everything up. Set up what? Big Mama, I need to take you to the hospital. You're severely dehydrated and... Child, I appreciate you being a good nurse, but right now I need you to be something else. She grabbed my hand again, her eyes boring into mine. I need you to be angry. I need you to want revenge. Because what they did to you is worse than what they did to me. What do you mean? How much you been sending every month for my care? My mouth went dry. $1,500 for your medications, your special food, I ain't seen a penny of it. Big Mama's voice was cold as winter. Every dime went into their pockets. That vacation they on? Your money paid for it. Those designer shoes Deshawn wears? Your money. That new car Lorraine been driving. Your money. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the bed. No, they wouldn't. They would. They did. And that's not even the worst of it. She pointed to the wall behind me. You see that picture frame? The one with the fake flowers? I turned. There was a cheap frame with plastic sunflowers on the wall, the kind you'd buy at a dollar store. Pull it down. I did. Behind it was a small panel in the wall, about 6 inches square. It had a tiny button hidden in the corner. Push it. I pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then I heard a soft mechanical whir, and a section of the wall, a section I'd assume was solid, began to slide open. Behind it was a room. Not just any room. A small, climate-controlled space filled with computer monitors, filing cabinets, and what looked like surveillance equipment. Blue light from the screens illuminated everything in an otherworldly glow. What is this? I whispered. My insurance policy. My evidence collection. My war room. Big Mama swung her legs over the side of the bed, moving stiffly but deliberately. Been installing surveillance in this house for the past 3 years. Every room except the bathrooms. I got some decency. Every conversation, every secret, every sin. She stood, leaning on my arm for support, and we walked into the hidden room. Up close, I could see that the monitors showed different angles of the house. The living room, the kitchen, Deshawn's bedroom, Lorraine's room, even the front and backyards. This is... I couldn't find words. Necessary. Big Mama settled into an office chair that looked far more comfortable than anything in the rest of the house. She typed something on a keyboard and the screens changed. Now, baby, I'm about to show you some things that are going to hurt. Some things that are going to make you want to scream. But I need you to hold it together, because we got work to do. Can you do that? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Good, because it's time you saw what your husband and his mama really think of you. She clicked the mouse. The main monitor filled with video footage dated 3 months ago. I recognized the living room. Lorraine was sitting on the couch with 4 other women, her church friends from the Mother's Board. This is from one of their little prayer circle meetings they have every Tuesday, Big Mama said quietly. On screen, I watched myself walk through the frame, still in my scrubs from work, carrying grocery bags. There she go. one of the women said, loud enough for the camera to pick up. Looking all tired and nappy-headed. Lorraine laughed. Girl, don't I know it. Tried to tell Deshaun to find himself a nice light-skinned girl with good hair, but he had to go and marry down. Way down. The women cackled. One of them said, at least she got a good job. That's why you keep her around, right? Honey, only reason, Lorraine responded. That girl work herself to the bone sending us money every month. Thinks she paying for Mama's medicine. She lowered her voice conspiratorially. Mama ain't taking half them pills the doctor prescribed. We've been selling them to cover our expenses. My vision blurred. I felt Big Mama's hand on my shoulder steadying me. Keep watching, she said softly. Another woman on screen asked, what about her family? They doing okay? Lorraine waved dismissively. Her people? Please. Darker than midnight and twice as country. Her mama clean houses for a living. Imani might have some education, but you can't breed out that kind of common. Deshaun should have done better. The video stopped. I was shaking, tears streaming down my face. 5 years. I'd been married to Deshaun for 5 years, had lived in this house, had eaten meals with Lorraine, had gone to church with her, had called her mama, because my own mother lived 3 hours away, and I wanted to be part of this family. And all along, this is what she thought of me. There's more, Big Mama said gently, much more. But first, I need you to understand something. You see these computers, this equipment? This ain't cheap, and it ain't just for spying. She swiveled her chair to face me fully. Imani, what did they tell you about me? About my life before the stroke? They said you worked as a secretary, that you lived on your husband's pension and Social Security. Big Mama laughed, a sound without humor. Secretary, Lord have mercy. Child, let me tell you who I really am. She pulled open a filing cabinet drawer and removed a folder. Inside were documents, certificates, photographs. She spread them across the desk. My name is Pearl Delaney Sterling. I was born in 1946 in Valdosta, Georgia, to sharecroppers who couldn't read, but made damn sure their children could. I was the first in my family to finish high school. Moved to Atlanta in 1965 with $47 in my pocket and a dream bigger than this city. She pointed to a photograph of a young, beautiful black woman standing in front of a small storefront. Opened my first medical supply store in 1970, right here in Southwest Atlanta. White suppliers wouldn't sell to me. White banks wouldn't lend to me. So I found black suppliers, saved every penny, and built it myself. Another photo, a larger building. By 1985, I had 5 stores. By 1985, I had expanded into medical equipment manufacturing. By 2005, I owned the largest black-owned medical supply company in the Southeast. She pulled out a more recent document, a corporate annual report. The letterhead read, Delaney Healthcare Solutions. The revenue listed was over $850 million. I couldn't breathe. You own, but how? They never said, because I never told them. After my husband died in 2010, I started seeing people different. Started seeing how money changed folks, made them greedy, made them mean. So I let them think I was just a poor old widow living on pennies, and I watched. And I learned exactly who they were when they thought there was nothing to gain from being kind. She tapped the annual report. I own this company. I own the building it's in. I own 47 medical facilities across Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina. I own the corporate plaza on Peachtree where your husband likes to pretend he works in the logistics department. Deshaun works for you? In the most charitable definition of the word works, yes. His actual job title is Special Projects Coordinator, which means he shows up 3 days a week, shuffles papers, takes long lunches, and cashes checks that I authorize my CFO to write. I gave him that position 5 years ago when he married you, thinking maybe he'd show some ambition. Maybe he'd make something of himself. Maybe he'd treat his wife with the respect a hardworking woman deserves. Her eyes hardened. I was wrong. She clicked the mouse again. A new video filled the screen. This one was dated just 2 weeks ago, right after I'd left for my last shift. The camera showed Deshaun's bedroom. Deshaun was there, but he wasn't alone. A woman was with him, a woman I recognized, Jasmine Fletcher, Lorraine's goddaughter, the one they'd introduced as a distant cousin. She was in Deshawn's bed wearing nothing but his t-shirt. I made a sound, not quite a scream, more like a wounded animal. On screen, Jasmine stretched lazily and said, "When you gonna divorce her?" Deshawn lit a cigarette in the house, which I'd forbidden because of Big Mama's breathing issues, and laughed. "Soon as the old lady dies, house goes to me in the will. Or that's what Ma thinks. Then I'll sell it, take the money, and we can get up out of here. Start fresh somewhere nice. Maybe Miami. What about Imani? What about her?" Deshawn took a long drag. "She'll be fine. Probably relieved, honestly. Won't have to support my lazy ass anymore." He said it with a grin, like it was a joke. Jasmine giggled. "You are terrible. I'm smart. She makes good money, and she's stupid enough to send it all to us. Why would I leave before the well runs dry?" The video continued. I watched them discuss me like I was a resource to be mined, not a person. Watch them plan my humiliation. Watch Jasmine mock my natural hair, my dark skin, my country accent that came out when I was tired. Big Mama stopped this video. "I got hours of this, baby. Hours. Different days, different conversations. But it's all the same theme." She pulled up another file. "This one's from 6 days ago, the day before they left for their vacation." This video showed Lorraine's room. She was on the phone with someone, her voice low. "Yeah, I think this is it," she was saying. "The old woman barely eating now. I've been putting the pills in her food like you said, grinding them up real fine. Doctor says they make her drowsy, but I think they doing more than that. She barely wakes up anymore." A pause as she listened to whoever was on the other end. "No, Imani doesn't suspect nothing. Too busy working them double shifts. Sends that money every month like clockwork, stupid cow." Lorraine laughed. "Deshawn's gonna sell this house soon as Mama passes. We already got a buyer lined up. One of them developers want to tear it down and build condos. Gonna split the money and I'm moving to Buckhead. Finally gonna live like I deserve." Another pause. "The girl, who cares? She can keep working herself to death. That's all she good for anyway. Dark-skinned women built for work, not for keeping. My boy should have married better." The video ended. I was on my knees without remembering falling. Sobs racked my body, ugly, painful sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest. Big Mama let me cry. When I finally looked up, she had pulled out the handgun from the box and was checking the clip with practiced efficiency. "Now," she said calmly, "let me tell you what we're gonna do." I don't know how long I cried on that floor. Time seemed meaningless in that small, blue-lit room, surrounded by evidence of my husband's betrayal and his mother's cruelty. When I finally ran out of tears, Big Mama handed me a box of tissues and a bottle of water. "Drink," she commanded, and I obeyed automatically. My throat was raw. My eyes felt swollen. But underneath the pain, something else was building. Something hot and sharp and focused. Rage. "Good," Big Mama said, watching my face. "That's what I need to see. Not sadness. Anger. Because we about to do something that requires you to be strong. And sad people ain't strong. Angry people are." She rolled her chair over to one of the filing cabinets and pulled out a thick folder. "Everything you need to know is in here. But first, I'm going to tell you some things you probably don't want to hear. Things about the man you married." "I don't think you can tell me anything worse than what I just watched," I said, my voice hoarse. "That's where you're wrong, baby." She opened the folder. "What you saw was betrayal. What I'm about to show you is attempted murder." She pulled out several documents, laboratory reports, medical records, pharmacy receipts. "You know those medications you've been sending money for every month? The $1,500 for my expensive prescriptions?" I nodded numbly. "I take exactly 3 medications. Blood pressure, cholesterol, and a baby aspirin. Total monthly cost, $47 with insurance. So where you think that other $1,453 been going?" "Their vacation, new clothes, living expenses." "Some of it, yes, but there's something else." She pulled out a specific document, a pharmacy receipt from a small, independent pharmacy on the south side. 3 months ago, Deshawn filled a prescription at this place, not anywhere near where we live. Drove 40 minutes out of his way to a pharmacy where nobody would know him. The prescription was for zolpidem, a strong sleeping medication, 60 pills. The patient name was listed as Pearl Sterling, but the handwriting on the signature line clearly wasn't Big Mama's. He forged my name, used a fake ID someone made for him, probably one of his gaming friends who do that kind of thing, got 60 pills of Ambien. She pulled out more receipts, same medication, different dates, always from different pharmacies scattered around the metro area. All forged, all illegal. Over the past 6 months, he's obtained at least 300 pills in my name. Know what happens if you give an elderly person high doses of sleep medication they don't need? I did. I was a nurse. Excessive sedation, increased fall risk, cognitive impairment, respiratory depression, in severe cases, death. Bingo. And if an old woman with documented dementia dies in her sleep, well, that's just natural causes, ain't it? Especially if you've been slowly increasing the dose, making it look like the dementia is progressing. Big Mama's voice was cold. They've been grinding these pills into my food for months now. I've been spitting most of it out when they ain't looking, but sometimes I miss some. That's why I really do be sleeping more than I used to. They literally trying to put me to sleep. Permanently. My hands clenched on the folder. We need to call the police, right now. This is evidence that will send them to prison, yes, but we ain't calling nobody yet. Big Mama's eyes glinted. Because I want them to come home first. I want them to walk in here thinking they about to inherit a fortune, thinking they got away with it all. And then I want to watch their faces when they realize they ain't getting nothing but a cell and a conviction. She pulled out another folder, this one even thicker. Before we get to the revenge part, you need to understand the full scope of what's been happening. See, I've been tracking every dollar. The folder contained bank statements, credit card bills, receipts, years' worth of financial documents. Big Mama had highlighted certain entries in yellow. This here is your bank account. Well, the joint account you share with Deshawn. You've been depositing your paychecks faithfully, and you've been seeing money go out for household expenses and bills and such, right? Right. Except most of those bills ain't real. See this one? Sterling Medical Associates? That's supposed to be my doctor. Except Sterling Medical Associates is a business name Deshawn registered himself 3 years ago. Been writing checks to his own fake company, depositing them in a separate account you don't know about. She flipped through the statements. This one, Delaney Home Healthcare. Also fake. This one, Peach State Pharmacy Services. Fake. Over the past 3 years, he's embezzled approximately $87,000 from your joint account using fake companies and forged signatures. I thought I might be sick. $87,000. Nearly 3 years of nursing shifts, countless double shifts, overnight shifts, holidays I'd worked instead of taking off. All stolen. There's more, Big Mama continued relentlessly. Your credit cards, the ones you gave him for emergencies. He's maxed out 4 of them. Total debt, $32,000. Know what he bought? She pulled out credit card statements with charges highlighted. Designer shoes, video game equipment, meals at expensive restaurants, while I ate ramen noodles at home. Cash advances that went straight into his pocket. And the best part? Big Mama's voice dripped with sarcasm. See this charge from 3 months ago? Forever Diamonds, $8,500? That's an engagement ring. For Jasmine. My vision went red. He bought his mistress an engagement ring with my money. With your money on your credit, and he's planning to propose soon as I'm dead, and he's sold this house. She pulled out another document, a text message exchange printed out. I got access to his phone through the computer. He ain't smart enough to use encryption or nothing. Here's him and Jasmine talking about the proposal. He was going to do it at some fancy restaurant in Buckhead. Make a big show. Tell all his friends. I couldn't speak. Couldn't think. The betrayal was so massive, so complete, that my mind couldn't process it all. Now Lorraine, Big Mama continued, pulling out yet another folder. She a different kind of thief. See, she's on the mother's board at church. Collects the offering from the Young Women's Ministry, usually about $3,000 a month for their various programs. Church documents showed offering amounts versus what was actually deposited in the church account. The discrepancy was obvious once you looked for it. She'd been skimming off the top for 2 years, Little bit here, little bit there. Total amount, approximately $68,000. Been using it to fund her lifestyle. That car she drives, them expensive church hats, that kitchen renovation she did last year. The church doesn't know? Oh, they suspect. But Lorraine's been there 30 years, and she plays the respectable church mother role so well. Plus, she always makes sure to blame any discrepancies on the young girls who count the money or accounting errors. Nobody wants to accuse a senior mother of stealing from God. Big Mama closed all the folders and looked at me. So that's what we dealing with. Embezzlement, fraud, forgery, theft, attempted murder, and enough lies to fill an ocean. The question is, what we gonna do about it? We call the police, we call the church. We could do that right now, and they'd be arrested probably within a day or two. Big Mama leaned back in her chair. They'd get lawyers, public defenders, probably since they ain't got real money. Might get 3 to 5 years each, out in 2 with good behavior. The money would mostly be gone. Can't get blood from a stone. You'd be divorced, sure, but you'd be broke and damaged and you'd have to start over with nothing but debt. She paused. Or we could be smart about it. Strategic. We could wait for them to come home from their vacation, let them walk into a trap of their own making, and make sure they get everything they deserve. Not just jail time, humiliation, public exposure, the complete destruction of their reputations. And you get everything you're owed, plus interest. How? Big Mama smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. By letting them think they won, by playing dead, and by making sure that when they fall hard. She turned to the computer and pulled up a calendar. Today is Monday. They left Friday morning, so they've been gone 3 days. You found me tonight, Monday night. Their vacation was supposed to be a week, so they won't be back until this Friday. That gives us 4 days. 4 days to do what? 4 days to transform this house, prepare the evidence, set the trap, and make sure everything is perfect for the show of their lives. She pulled out her phone, a smartphone, not the old flip phone she'd been using while pretending to have dementia. First call I'm making is to my lawyer, Sterling Montgomery. He's been waiting for my signal for 2 years. Second call is to my security team. Third call is to my CFO. By morning, this house is going to look very different. Big Mama, I don't understand. What are we doing? She took my hand. Baby, you gave them 5 years of your life, 5 years of your money, 5 years of your dignity. They took everything from you and laughed while doing it. So now? Her grip tightened. Now we take everything from them and we make sure the whole world watches. The first call Big Mama made was to someone named Sterling Montgomery. It was after midnight, but he answered on the second ring. Mrs. Delaney, his voice came through the phone, crisp and professional. Is it time? It's time. Code Lazarus. There was a brief pause, then, I'll be there in 30 minutes. Team will arrive by 2 a.m. Do you need medical attention? I'm fine. Amani took care of me. She knows everything now. Good. The plan proceeds as discussed, with some modifications. This got more complicated than we thought. Bring the full documentation package. And Sterling, call Marcus at the firm. Tell him I need the transformation team here by dawn. Full renovation, full security upgrade, full evidence preservation protocol. Understood. See you soon. Big Mama hung up and immediately dialed another number. This call was answered by a younger-sounding man. Delaney Residence Security, this is Marcus. Marcus, it's Mrs. Delaney. Authorization code Sterling Rose 773. Code confirmed. How can I assist you, ma'am? I need a full sweep team at the property within the hour. Also, bring the medical kit. The real one, not the fake maintenance supplies. Miss Imani needs proper hydration and nutrients, and I need a real medical evaluation after 3 days of their neglect. On it, ETA 45 minutes. Within an hour, my small world exploded into organized chaos. 3 black SUVs pulled up to the house with their lights off. Men and women in professional attire emerged carrying equipment cases and laptops. A doctor, a real doctor with credentials from Emory, examined Big Mama and set up an IV line to address her dehydration. He examined me too, insisting that emotional shock was a medical event that needed monitoring. Sterling Montgomery turned out to be a tall, distinguished black man in his 60s, wearing a three-piece suit despite the late hour. He had silver hair, intelligent eyes behind designer glasses, and the confident air of someone who'd won more cases than he'd lost. He shook my hand firmly. "Mrs. Robinson, I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. I've been Mrs. Delaney's attorney for 32 years. I've also been documenting this situation for the past 24 months, waiting for her signal." "You knew about all of it? Every fraudulent charge, every forged signature, every plan they made thinking they were being clever." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder 3 inches thick. "I have enough evidence to put both of them away for 15 years minimum. The question is how we deploy it for maximum effect." Big Mama, now properly hydrated and looking more herself, sat in a wheelchair. Not because she needed it, but because the doctor insisted. "Sterling, show her the financials, the real ones." Sterling pulled out a tablet and opened a document. "Mrs. Robinson, you've been paying into what you believed was a joint household account and contributing to Big Mama's care. Here's where that money actually went." The tablet showed a flow chart. My money went into the joint account, then flowed out through various fake companies into accounts controlled by Deshawn and Lorraine. From there, it funded Deshawn's car lease, the Dodge Charger he claimed was a company car, 847-month Lorraine's car lease. The Lexus, she said, was a gift from church friends, 923-month Deshawn's crypto trading account, where he'd lost $43,000, complete loss. Jasmine's boutique startup, $35,000 investment, Hilton Head vacation rental, $4,200 for the week. Designer clothes, restaurants, entertainment, average $3,200 month engagement ring for Jasmine. $8,500 total misappropriation of your funds over the past 3 years, Sterling said calmly, is approximately $147,000. I couldn't breathe. That was more than 2 years of my salary, 2 years of my life. "However," Sterling continued, "we have good news. Mrs. Delaney has already initiated proceedings to freeze all accounts associated with Deshawn and Lorraine. As of 1:47 a.m. tonight, every credit card, every bank account, every digital payment service they have access to has been locked pending fraud investigation." "They're going to notice," and I said. "They'll try to use their cards." "Oh, they already did." Big Mama smiled grimly. "Got a notification 20 minutes ago. Deshawn tried to buy drinks at some beach bar. Card declined. He tried 3 more cards, all declined. By now, he's probably calling the banks and being told there's a security hold on the accounts pending verification of suspicious activity. What will they do? Panic, come home early most likely." "Which is exactly what we want." Big Mama gestured to the security team, who were unpacking equipment. "Which is why we have 4 days' work to do in about 48 hours. The transformation began immediately. Marcus, the security chief, was a former Marine with shoulders like a linebacker. He directed his team with military precision. "We're documenting everything before we touch it," he explained to me. "Every piece of trash, every dirty dish, every piece of evidence of neglect. Photographs, video, even air quality readings to document the conditions Mrs. Delaney was kept in." I watched as they methodically photographed the house from every angle. The filthy kitchen, the moldy food, the overflowing trash, Big Mama's soiled bedding, all of it documented with professional-grade equipment and time-stamped. Then the cleaning crew arrived. Not just any cleaning crew. This was a team of 12 people who descended on the house like a SWAT team. They worked in coordinated silence, stripping away years of neglect. Furniture was removed. Walls were scrubbed. Carpets were torn up to reveal original hardwood floors. "Where's all our stuff going?" I asked, watching as they carried out Deshawn's gaming setup. "Storage facility," Marcus replied. "We'll keep it for evidence if needed, but it's not staying here. This house belongs to Mrs. Delaney. Her grandson and his mother have been squatters, legally speaking. They have no claim to anything in it." By 4 a.m., the living room was empty. By 5 a.m., painters were rolling primer on the walls. By 6 a.m., new furniture was arriving. Not cheap furniture, not even mid-range furniture. The kind of furniture you saw in luxury home magazines. A leather sectional in rich chocolate brown. Real leather, not the fake stuff. A coffee table made of live-edge wood and steel that probably cost more than my car. Area rugs that felt like walking on clouds. Art, actual art, being hung on freshly painted walls. "Big Mama," I whispered, watching a chandelier being installed in the living room. "This is too much. It's beautiful, but nothing. This is my house. It should look like my house." She was in her element, directing the design team with the eye of someone who knew exactly what she wanted. "That painting, move it 3 inches to the left. The credenza goes against the east wall, not the south. And somebody get me a catalog for throw pillows that don't look like they came from a dollar store." The doctor had tried to insist she rest. Big Mama had politely told him to mind his own business. By noon on Tuesday, the main floor was completely transformed. The dingy, neglected house I'd lived in for 5 years was gone. In its place was a showcase home that belonged in a magazine. But the real transformation was in the back room. Big Mama's room. The hospital bed was replaced with a queen-size bed with a memory foam mattress. The concrete floor got heated hardwood. A private bathroom was installed, a full bathroom with a walk-in shower, heated towel racks, and fixtures that looked like they belonged in a spa. "This is for you," Big Mama said, watching my face as I took it all in. "After we're done with them, you're not going back to breaking your back taking care of other people without taking care of yourself. This room is yours. I can't accept you can and you will. Consider it back payment for the 5 years you've been my only real family." That's when I started crying again. Not sad tears this time. Something else. Relief, maybe, or hope. Sterling Montgomery found me in the new bedroom, sitting on the floor crying. He sat down beside me, suit and all, and handed me his pocket square. "It's overwhelming, I know," he said kindly, "but you need to understand something. Mrs. Delaney doesn't do anything halfway. When she cares about someone, she moves heaven and earth for them, and she cares about you." "Why? I'm nobody. I'm just—" "You're the woman who came home, exhausted from saving lives, and used her last bit of energy to save hers. You're the woman who worked herself to the bone to support people who didn't deserve it. You're the woman who showed her more kindness in one night than her own blood showed her in 2 years. He smiled. "That's not nobody. That's exactly who she's been looking for." He stood and offered me his hand. "Come on. We have work to do. Mrs. Delaney wants you to see something." He led me back to the hidden room, the control center. Big Mama was there with 2 technicians reviewing footage on multiple screens. "Imani, come here." She gestured to a specific monitor. "This is from this morning, about 2 hours ago." The screen showed security footage from outside a beachfront restaurant. I recognized Deshaun immediately. He was with Lorraine and Jasmine, sitting at an outdoor table. He was on his phone, and even in the grainy footage, I could see he was angry. The camera had audio. I heard him say, "This is impossible. All of them can't be frozen. Check again." Lorraine looked nervous. "What do you mean frozen? Baby, what's going on?" "I mean, every card I have just got declined. Yours too. I saw the notification. Something's wrong." Jasmine leaned back in her chair, looking annoyed. "So how are we supposed to pay for this meal? I'm not covering it." "I'll figure it out," Deshaun snapped. He made another call. I recognized the number on his screen, the bank's customer service line. "Yes, I need to know why my accounts are frozen." "What do you mean, fraud investigation?" "There's no fraud. You can't tell me more?" "I need to speak to a supervisor." He listened, his face getting redder. "How long until it's resolved?" 3 to 5 business days. "I need that money now." The call ended. He slammed his phone on the table. "We need to go home." "What? We have 3 more days?" Jasmine whined. "I said we're going home. Something's wrong. We need to go back and figure this out." Lorraine's face went tight with worry. "You don't think—" "The old woman? She's probably dead by now. That's not the problem. The problem is somebody froze our accounts, and I need to fix it." The video paused. Big Mama looked at me with grim satisfaction. "They'll be back by tomorrow night at the latest. Maybe even tonight if they leave right now. Which means we need to finish preparations." "What happens when they get here?" I asked. "When they get here?" Big Mama's smile was cold as winter. When they get here, they find out that the old woman they left to die is very much alive, and that she's been waiting for them. By Wednesday evening, the house was unrecognizable. What had been a tired, neglected property was now a showcase of elegant black luxury. Every detail had been considered, every surface perfect. But the real magic was in the hidden elements. Marcus and his security team had installed cameras in places Deshawn and Lorraine would never think to look. Behind picture frames, in the new crown molding, even in the chandelier, every angle of every room was covered. We want to capture their reactions from multiple perspectives, Marcus explained, showing me the control room setup. When this goes public, and it will go public, we want the evidence to be undeniable. Public? I asked. Mrs. Delaney has connections with several investigative journalists who specialize in elder abuse cases. This story, with this evidence, will be national news. Atlanta news stations will be fighting over it. Your husband and his mother will be famous. Just not the way they imagine. Sterling Montgomery was in the living room with his legal team, preparing documents. We'll serve them with criminal charges, civil suits, and restraining orders all at once. The police will be here, waiting. But first, we let them walk in and incriminate themselves further. I was trying on the clothes the stylist had brought, designer outfits that fit me perfectly. They'd somehow gotten my measurements without me noticing. A cream-colored dress that made me look professional and powerful. Shoes that were actually comfortable. Hair and makeup artists had come to the house and spent 3 hours on me. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. The tired, worn-down nurse was gone. The woman looking back at me looked confident, strong, beautiful. "That's who you really are," Big Mama said from behind me. She was dressed impeccably, too, a deep purple suit that made her look like royalty. Her hair was professionally styled, her makeup subtle but perfect. That's the woman who was hidden under all their abuse. Now the world gets to see her. Wednesday night, we got the call. Deshawn's car was an hour away, heading north on I-95. They were coming home. Everything was ready. The house looked like something from Architectural Digest. Big Mama sat in a high-back chair in the center of the living room, positioned perfectly under a spotlight. I stood beside her, flanked by 2 security guards who looked like they could bench press a car. Sterling Montgomery and his legal team were positioned in the formal dining room, just out of initial sight. The police, 3 officers from the Atlanta PD, including a detective, were waiting in the kitchen, present but hidden. "Remember," Big Mama said calmly, "let them talk. Let them dig their own graves. Don't interrupt, don't defend yourself. Just watch." "I'm scared," I admitted. "Good. Fear means you're alive. Fear means you care. But don't let them see it. They fed on your fear for years. Tonight, they see your strength." At 10:47 p.m., we heard a car pull into the driveway. Doors slammed. Voices, arguing about whose fault it was that the cards weren't working, about whether they should have left earlier, about whether something had happened to the house. Keys in the lock, the sound of the door opening. Then, silence. Complete, total silence as they stood in the doorway, staring at what used to be their home. "What the fuck?" Deshawn's voice broke the silence. The lights came on all at once. Not the old yellowed bulbs, but bright LED lighting that made everything gleam. Deshawn stood frozen in the doorway. Lorraine was behind him, her mouth open. And behind them, Jasmine, carrying shopping bags from their trip, looking confused. They stared at the transformed living room, the expensive furniture, the art on the walls, the chandelier. And then their eyes landed on us. Big Mama sat in her chair like a queen on a throne. I stood beside her in my designer dress. 2 muscular security guards flanked us, and we stared back at them. "Grandma?" Deshawn's voice was weak. "What? How? How am I alive?" Big Mama's voice was cold as ice. "Is that what you mean to ask? How am I alive after you left me to die? After you poisoned me for months? After you abandoned me without food or water for 3 days?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Deshawn tried to recover. "We just went on vacation. We left Imani to take care of you." "Imani, who you've been stealing from for 5 years?" Big Mama interrupted. Imani, who you were planning to divorce as soon as I died? Imani, who you called a stupid cow while laughing with your mistress? Jasmine's face went pale. She took a step back. How do you... Lorraine's voice was shaking. You got dementia. You don't remember. I never had dementia. Big Mama stood up, slowly, deliberately. The security guards stayed at her sides, but she didn't need them. Her presence filled the room. I've been fully aware for 2 years, watching, listening, recording every single thing you did and said. She gestured and Marcus pressed a button. The large TV on the wall, a new 85-inch screen, flickered to life. The first video played, Deshawn and Jasmine in bed, discussing when to divorce me, discussing how to maximize what they could steal, laughing about how stupid I was. Deshawn's face went from pale to green. You can't record people without permission. That's illegal. Not in my own home, it's not, Big Mama said calmly. This is my house, has been for 37 years. You're just squatters I allowed to stay, and I can record whatever I want in my own property. The next video played, Lorraine in her room, grinding pills into a bowl of oatmeal, talking on the phone about how the pills were making Big Mama drowsy and how it wouldn't be long now. That's not what it looks like, Lorraine tried. Those were her prescribed medications. Those were Ambien that Deshawn obtained illegally using forged prescriptions in my name. Sterling Montgomery emerged from the dining room, carrying his briefcase. We have the pharmacy records. We have the forged signatures. We have the fake ID he used. We have everything. He pulled out documents and set them on the coffee table. We also have records of $147,000 in funds embezzled from Mrs. Imani Robinson through fraudulent accounts. We have records of $68,000 stolen from the church offering. We have evidence of identity theft, elder abuse, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, and about 17 other charges that will send you both to prison for a very, very long time. Deshawn looked at me for the first time. Really looked at me. Imani, baby, this is crazy. This is all a misunderstanding. You know I love you. Don't. My voice was steady, strong. I barely recognized it as my own. Don't you dare. I've seen the videos, all of them. I've heard every word you said about me. Every insult, every plan, every lie. I took a step forward. I worked myself to exhaustion for you. I sent you money every month thinking I was helping your grandmother. I sacrificed everything. My health, my savings, my dignity, because I thought we were family. I thought you loved me. My voice didn't shake. I wouldn't let it. But you never loved me. You loved my money. You loved having a stupid cow to use. You loved knowing you could treat me like garbage, and I'd keep coming back because I was too dark-skinned, too country, too desperate to be worth anything better. Lorraine gasped. Those words, her words that I'd heard on the recordings, hung in the air. Yeah, I heard that too, I said, looking at her. Heard every colorist comment. Every time you told your friends I wasn't good enough for your son because I was too dark. Every time you mocked my hair, my family, my background, all while stealing my money and poisoning the one person in this house who actually cared about me. Imani, please. Lorraine tried to approach me. Marcus stepped between us. I didn't mean, it's just how we talk, you know that. I never meant, you meant every word. Big Mama's voice cut through the room. Just like you meant to kill me. Just like you meant to take this house, sell it, and abandon Imani with nothing but debt and trauma. She nodded to Sterling, who pulled out another document. But here's what you didn't know. This house, it's not in any will. It was transferred to my charitable trust 9 years ago. You never had any claim to it, ever. Deshawn's face went white. But you said, Ma always said, your mother lied about everything, just like you did. Big Mama's voice was merciless. This house is worth $1.7 million in the current market, but you'll never see a penny of it. Neither will she. And the money? Jasmine spoke for the first time, her voice shaky. The money from her company? From her accounts? Also in the trust. Also going to charity. The only thing my grandson is inheriting is a criminal record and a lifetime of regret. The detective emerged from the kitchen with the 2 officers. Deshawn Sterling Robinson, Lorraine Marie Robinson, you're both under arrest for attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud, embezzlement. The list went on and on. I watched as they put handcuffs on my husband, watched as he looked at me with desperation in his eyes, watched as reality crashed down on him. Imani, please, he shouted as they led him toward the door. Don't let them do this. I'm your husband. No, I said quietly. You were never my husband. You were a parasite, and now you're just a criminal. Lorraine was crying, begging, pleading with Big Mama. Please, Ma, I'm sorry. Please don't do this. I'll pay it back. You tried to murder me, Big Mama said simply, and you used the woman who saved my life to fund your vacation while you did it. There's no coming back from that. They dragged Lorraine out, still sobbing. Jasmine stood in the doorway, her shopping bags forgotten. What about me? What about you? Sterling asked. You were an accessory to fraud, conspiracy, and you accepted stolen goods knowingly. You knew that ring was bought with Imani's money. You knew Deshaun was married. You participated in planning elder abuse. I need a lawyer. Yes, you do. You're going to need a very good one. He handed her a business card. Here's the number for the public defender's office. I'm sure they're very busy this time of year. She ran, and then they were gone. All three of them. And the house was silent. I stood in the middle of the transformed living room and felt empty, not sad, not happy, just empty. Big Mama took my hand. Breathe, baby. Just breathe. I did. One breath, then another. How do you feel? She asked. I don't know. I thought I'd feel victorious. But I just feel tired. That's normal. Justice is exhausting. She guided me to the couch, the beautiful, expensive couch that was now in a house that felt like a museum. But tomorrow, after you rest, you're going to wake up and realize something. What's that? You're free. The media explosion happened faster than I expected. By Thursday morning, the story was everywhere. Billionaire elder fakes dementia to expose abusive family was the headline on every Atlanta news station. By noon, it had gone national. CNN wanted an interview. Fox News, MSNBC. Good Morning America. The View, everyone. Big Mama sat in the control room, watching the coverage with grim satisfaction. Sterling's team did good. The narrative is exactly what we wanted. The public is on our side. I watched a news anchor describe me as a hero nurse who uncovered the plot and felt surreal. That wasn't me. I was just a woman who came home from work and found her husband's grandmother dying, but the internet had other ideas. Justice for Imani was trending on Twitter. Black women across the country were sharing their own stories of colorism, of family betrayal, of working themselves to death for people who didn't appreciate them. One tweet had 47,000 retweets. Imani is every dark-skinned black woman who was told she wasn't good enough, who worked twice as hard, who gave everything and got nothing. Her story is our story, and she won. Another, that mother-in-law stealing from the church offering while judging everyone else? That's every fake holy hypocrite who ever wore a big hat on Sunday morning. The church had released a statement by Thursday afternoon. Lorraine had been removed from all positions. An audit was being conducted. The pastor, a man I'd sat under for 5 years, apologized publicly for failing to see the signs of abuse. Deshaun's friends started distancing themselves on social media. The ones who'd made fun of me, who'd accepted his gifts bought with my money, who'd known about Jasmine. They were all suddenly posting about respect and loyalty and family values. It would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. By Friday, the legal proceedings were in full swing. Sterling's team had filed everything: criminal charges, civil suits, restraining orders. The evidence was so overwhelming that even the public defender assigned to Deshaun told him to consider a plea deal. They're looking at 15-20 years each if they go to trial, Sterling explained. The attempted murder charge alone is enough. Add in the elder abuse, fraud, theft from a church, embezzlement, a jury will destroy them. What kind of plea deal? 12 years for Deshaun, 10 for Lorraine. No parole eligibility for 7 years. Full restitution of all stolen funds, which they don't have, so their wages will be garnished for life. and a permanent restraining order preventing them from contacting either you or Mrs. Delaney. It sounded like a long time. It also didn't sound like long enough. What about Jasmine? She's cooperating, gave up everything she knew about their plans in exchange for 18 months in probation. She'll serve 9 months if she behaves, then she's out. That felt wrong, but Sterling explained, she's a small fish. Yes, she knew about the abuse, but she didn't participate in the poisoning or the financial fraud directly. She's guilty of being a terrible person, but that's not always illegal. Jasmine's boutique closed within a week. Her name was attached to the scandal, and no one wanted to shop there. She'd invested $35,000 of embezzled money into it, and now it was worth nothing. The engagement ring, the $8,500 ring bought with my money, was seized as evidence. Eventually, it would be sold and the proceeds returned to me. I didn't want it. I told Sterling to sell it and donate the money to a charity for domestic violence survivors. By the second week, I had to face the question I'd been avoiding. What now? Big Mama called a meeting in the transformed living room. Sterling was there, along with Marcus and a woman I didn't recognize. A black woman in her 40s wearing a power suit and carrying a leather portfolio. Imani, this is Dr. Cassandra Price. She's the CEO of Delaney Healthcare Solutions. I shook her hand confused. Nice to meet you. Dr. Price, Big Mama continued, is retiring at the end of the year. She's been with the company for 20 years, and she's ready to spend time with her grandchildren, which means I need a new CEO. I still didn't understand. Big Mama looked at me with those sharp eyes. That's why I'm offering you the position. The room spun. What? No. Big Mama, I'm a nurse. I don't know anything about running a company. I don't have an MBA. You have something more important. You have integrity. You have compassion. You have the ability to work harder than anyone I've ever known. And you have my trust. She leaned forward. The company doesn't need another business school graduate who knows how to make money but doesn't care about people. It needs someone who understands healthcare from the ground up, someone who's been in the trenches, someone who knows what it's like to fight for every dollar and still show up with a smile to take care of others. But I'm not qualified. You will be. Dr. Price will mentor you for 6 months. Sterling will handle all the legal aspects. Marcus will handle security. You'll have a full executive team supporting you. And you'll be paid $350,000 a year to start, with stock options and full benefits. I couldn't speak. $350,000. That was more than 8 times what I made as a nurse. That was impossible. Why? I finally whispered. Why would you do this for me? Big Mama reached out and took my hand. Her grip was strong, certain, because 5 years ago, my grandson brought home a woman he called his wife, and I watched her work herself to exhaustion, watched her give everything she had, watched her be kind even when kindness wasn't returned. And I thought, that's the daughter I should have had. That's the family I deserved. Tears ran down my face. You saved my life, Imani, not just by giving me water that night. You saved it by showing me that good people still exist, that family isn't always blood, that love is a verb, not just a word. She squeezed my hand. So now I'm asking you, will you be my family? Really be my family? Not as my grandson's wife, as my daughter, my heir, my legacy. I couldn't see through my tears. Yes, I don't deserve this, but yes, you deserve everything good in this world, baby, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you get it. Dr. Price stood and opened her portfolio. Then we'd better get started. You have a lot to learn, and we don't have time to waste. First lesson, stop saying you don't deserve things. You're a CEO now. CEOs don't apologize for their worth. The courtroom was packed. I sat in the front row wearing a navy suit that cost more than my old car. My hair was professionally styled, natural, beautifully shaped, a crown I wore with pride. On my left was Big Mama, regal in purple. On my right was Sterling Montgomery. Behind us, the gallery was full of journalists, concerned citizens, and members of the church where Lorraine had stolen from the offering plate for 2 years. I hadn't seen Deshawn or Lorraine since the night of their arrest. I'd been building a new life, learning a new job, becoming a new person. The broken, exhausted nurse was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who knew her worth. The bailiff called the court to order. Judge Patricia Williams, a black woman in her 60s with silver locks and an expression that said she'd seen everything twice, took the bench. We're here for sentencing in the matter of State of Georgia versus Deshaun Sterling Robinson and Lorraine Marie Robinson. Will the defendants please rise? They stood. Deshaun looked terrible. Jail had not been kind to him. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow. The swagger was gone. The man who'd laughed about using me looked like a shadow of himself. Lorraine had aged 10 years and 6 months. Her hair, usually immaculately pressed and styled for church, was gray at the roots and unkempt. She wore an orange jumpsuit instead of her fancy church suits. She looked small, broken. Part of me felt sorry for them. The other part remembered the videos, remembered their laughter, remembered Big Mama lying in her own waste, dying of dehydration while they vacationed on my money. That part felt nothing. I've reviewed the evidence in this case extensively, Judge Williams said, and I must say in 30 years on the bench, I have rarely seen such calculated cruelty. The defendants systematically abused an elderly woman in their care. They stole from family, from church, from their community. They attempted murder not for passion, but for profit, and they did it all while presenting themselves as upstanding citizens. She looked directly at Lorraine. Mrs. Robinson, you served on the mother's board at your church. You collected offerings meant to help young women in need, and you stole nearly $70,000 of that money to fund your lifestyle. How do you reconcile that with the faith you claim to hold? Lorraine opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I'll tell you how. You can't, because your faith was as fake as everything else about you. The judge turned to Deshaun. And you, Mr. Robinson, you married a woman who loved you, who worked herself to exhaustion to support you, and you repaid her by stealing her money, cheating on her with her cousin, and planning to divorce her the moment your grandmother died. What do you have to say for yourself? Deshaun's lawyer had advised him not to speak, but he spoke anyway. I'm sorry, his voice cracked. Imani, I'm so sorry. I was stupid. I was greedy. I love you. I've always loved you. No. My voice rang out clear in the courtroom. You didn't, and I don't accept your apology. You don't get to feel better by saying sorry. You get to live with what you did, just like I had to live with what you did to me for 5 years. The judge nodded approvingly. Well said, Mrs. Robinson, or should I say, CEO Robinson. A murmur went through the courtroom. Yes, everyone knew. The nurse they'd abused was now the CEO of an $850 million healthcare company. Given the severity of the crimes, the calculated nature of the abuse, and the complete lack of genuine remorse, Judge Williams continued, I'm sentencing Deshaun Sterling Robinson to 15 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for 7 years. Lorraine Marie Robinson will serve 12 years under the same conditions. Lorraine collapsed, sobbing. Deshaun just stood there, staring at nothing. Additionally, the judge said, both defendants are ordered to pay full restitution to Mrs. Imani Robinson in the amount of $147,000, plus interest and legal fees, totaling $198,000. Their wages will be garnished upon release. They are also ordered to pay the church $68,000 in restitution for the stolen funds. The gavel came down. Bang! It was over. We walked out of the courthouse into bright October sunshine. Camera flashes exploded around us. Reporters shouted questions. Mrs. Robinson, how do you feel? CEO Robinson, what's your message to other women in abusive situations? Sterling stepped forward, raising a hand. Ms. Robinson will make a brief statement. I took a breath and stepped up to the microphone cluster. 6 months ago, I would have been terrified. Today, I was CEO of a major corporation. Public speaking was part of my job now. For 5 years, I believed I wasn't worth anything, I said clearly. I believed the lies they told me, that I was too dark, too common, too stupid to deserve better. I worked myself to exhaustion trying to earn love from people who saw me as nothing but a paycheck. I paused, making eye contact with the cameras. But I want every woman watching this to know, you are worth more. Your kindness is not weakness. Your hard work is not something to be exploited. And when people show you who they really are, believe them the first time. What's next for you? A reporter called out. I'm continuing my work as CEO of Delaney Healthcare Solutions. We're launching a new initiative to provide free medical supplies to underserved communities, and we're opening a scholarship fund for dark-skinned Black women pursuing healthcare careers. We're calling it the Amani Robinson Legacy Fund. More camera flashes. More questions. But Big Mama touched my arm gently, and we walked to the waiting car, a Mercedes S-Class with Marcus at the wheel. As we drove away from the courthouse, I watched the building disappear in the side mirror, the place where my old life officially ended and my new one was validated. You did good, baby, Big Mama said. Real good. I learned from the best. She laughed, a real laugh, full of joy. Now comes the fun part, living well. That's the best revenge of all. The gala was being held at the Georgia Aquarium, the entire venue rented out for the evening. 500 guests in evening wear mingled among the exhibits, champagne glasses in hand, making connections and deals while beluga whales swam overhead. I stood near the main tank, watching the whale sharks glide through the water with impossible grace. My gown was custom made, a deep emerald green that complemented my skin tone perfectly. My natural hair was styled in an elegant updo. Diamond earrings that Big Mama had given me sparkled in the blue light from the tank. CEO Robinson, a voice said behind me. The journalist would like a photo. I turned to see Marcus, who'd been promoted to Chief Security Officer of the entire Delaney Corporation. He wore a tuxedo now instead of tactical gear, but he was still the same protective presence. Let them wait 5 more minutes, I said. I'm having a moment. He smiled and stepped back, giving me space but staying close enough to intervene if anyone bothered me. The gala was celebrating the first anniversary of the Amani Robinson Legacy Fund. In 1 year, we'd provided $12 million in scholarships to 147 Black women pursuing careers in healthcare. We distributed $8 million in free medical equipment to underserved communities. We changed lives, my life included. Imani, a familiar voice called out. I turned to see Dr. Cassandra Price approaching with her husband. She'd officially retired 6 months ago, but she still served on the board and mentored me regularly. Cassandra, I hugged her warmly. I'm so glad you came. Wouldn't miss it. This is your night. She gestured to the crowd. Look at what you've built. 1 year ago, you were learning how to read a quarterly report. Tonight, you're running a corporation worth almost $1 billion, and you're doing it better than I ever did. I had good teachers. You had determination. That's rarer than intelligence. She squeezed my arm. Pearl would be so proud. My throat tightened. Big Mama had passed away 3 months ago, peacefully in her sleep at age 79. She'd lived long enough to see me thrive, to see the Legacy Fund launch, to see justice served. She died knowing she'd found the family she deserved. I was in her will, not as a beneficiary but as the executor of her estate and the sole board chair of the Delaney Trust. Everything she'd built was now mine to steward. The responsibility was terrifying and exhilarating. Speech time, Marcus said gently. I nodded and made my way to the small stage set up near the main tank. The crowd quieted as I took the microphone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. 500 faces looked at me expectantly. A year ago, I would have seen judgment in those faces. Tonight, I saw respect. A year ago, I was a different person. I was a nurse working double shifts, sending money to people who didn't deserve it, believing I wasn't worth anything better. I was surviving, but I wasn't living. I paused, gathering my thoughts. Then one night, I came home to find an elderly woman dying in filth, abandoned by the people who should have loved her. And that woman looked at me and said something that changed my life. Help me get revenge. They have no idea who I really am. A ripple of recognition went through the crowd. Everyone knew the story by now. Pearl Delaney Sterling taught me that kindness isn't weakness, that working hard doesn't make you stupid, that being underestimated is an advantage if you're smart enough to use it. My voice strengthened. She taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you're dying in the dark, who fights for you when you can't fight for yourself, who sees your worth when everyone else is blind. I looked out at the crowd, at the faces of scholarship recipients, community leaders, people whose lives had been touched by the work we were doing. This fund isn't just about money or education. It's about telling dark-skinned Black women that they matter, that their work has value, that their lives have meaning beyond how much they can give to others. It's about breaking cycles of abuse, colorism, and exploitation. Applause rippled through the room. Tonight, we're announcing a major expansion. Starting next quarter, we're doubling our scholarship fund to $25 million annually. We're opening 3 community health centers in underserved Atlanta neighborhoods, and we're launching a legal aid program to help women escape financial abuse. The applause grew louder, because here's what I learned. Revenge isn't about making people suffer. It's about taking everything they tried to steal from you, your dignity, your future, your joy, and building something beautiful with it. It's about living so well that your success becomes undeniable. I raised my champagne glass. To Pearl Delaney Sterling, to Second Chances, to the women who work twice as hard and deserve twice the recognition, and to the truth that no matter how dark the night, morning always comes. To morning, the crowd echoed, raising their glasses. As I stepped off the stage, I was immediately surrounded by people wanting photos, wanting to share their stories, wanting to thank me. I smiled and shook hands and listened to woman after woman tell me how the scholarship had changed her life, how seeing someone who looked like her succeed had given her hope. It was overwhelming. It was exhausting. It was everything. Later, as the gala wound down and guests began to leave, I found myself back at the whale shark tank. Marcus had positioned himself nearby, giving me space but staying alert. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it. Then I saw the message. I saw you on the news. The gala looked beautiful. You looked beautiful. I'm sorry. I know you won't respond, but I needed you to know I'm sorry. Deshawn. Somehow he'd gotten access to a phone in prison and found my number. I stared at the message for a long moment. A year ago, seeing his name would have sent me into a panic attack. 6 months ago, it would have made me angry. Tonight, I felt nothing. I blocked the number and deleted the message. He didn't deserve space in my mind anymore. You ready to go, CEO Robinson? Marcus asked. Actually, I have one more stop to make. The Georgia Diagnostic and Classification State Prison was a 45-minute drive from Atlanta. I'd never been to a prison before. Never wanted to. But tonight, I needed to. Marcus drove, understanding without me having to explain. When we arrived at the gates, he flashed his credentials and mine. The guards checked our IDs, ran background checks, and finally let us through. You sure about this? Marcus asked as we parked. No, but I'm doing it anyway. The visiting area was divided into sections. I'd arranged a private meeting room, a privilege that came with being a major employer in the state. Money talked, even in prison. Lorraine was brought in first, escorted by a guard. She'd aged another 10 years in the 12 months since sentencing. Her hair was completely gray now, cut short for practicality. Her face was gaunt, her eyes hollow. She sat down across from me, separated by a plexiglass barrier. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. Why are you here? She finally asked. Her voice was different, smaller, defeated. I needed to see you, needed to understand something. Understand what? That I'm a terrible person? That I ruined my life? Congratulations, you won. You can go now. I didn't come here to gloat. I leaned forward. I came here to ask you a question, and I need you to answer honestly. Just once in your life, be honest with me. She said nothing, but her eyes met mine. Why did you hate me so much? Was it really just because I'm dark-skinned? Because I came from nothing? What did I ever do to you besides love your son and take care of your family? Lorraine's face crumpled. Tears started flowing, and for the first time since I'd known her, they looked real. You didn't do anything, she whispered. That's the problem. You were everything I wasn't. You were kind when I was cruel. You were hardworking when I was lazy. You were genuine when I was fake. She wiped her face with her sleeve. And you were dark, like my grandmother. Like the parts of myself I was taught to hate. I sat back, processing this. My grandmother raised me, Lorraine continued. She was dark-skinned, poor, worked as a maid her whole life. My mother married a light-skinned man, had light-skinned children, and told us we were better than Grandma. Told us not to end up like her. Dark, poor, nothing. Her voice broke. So I spent my whole life running from that. Married a light-skinned man, had a light-skinned son, joined the right church, wore the right clothes, said the right things, built this whole image of respectability. And then Deshaun married me, I said quietly. And then he married you. Beautiful, dark-skinned you. Hard-working, kind you. You reminded me of my grandmother, and instead of being grateful for that, I hated you for it. Because seeing you meant facing everything I'd been taught to despise about myself. She looked at me with something that might have been regret. I convinced myself you were beneath us, that you were using Deshaun, that you were the problem, because if I admitted the truth, that you were the only good person in that house, then I'd have to admit what a monster I'd become. So you decided to destroy me instead. Yes, she said it simply. And I destroyed myself in the process, destroyed my son, lost everything that actually mattered. She pressed her hand against the plexiglass. I know sorry doesn't fix anything. I know you'll never forgive me. But Imani, that grandmother I was so ashamed of, she died when I was 30, and I didn't even go to her funeral. Told people I was too busy. Truth is, I was too embarrassed to be seen with my dark-skinned relatives. She wiped her eyes. I've got 12 years in here to think about that. To think about how I threw away my humanity trying to look respectable. And every day I see your face on the news. Running that company, helping people who look like my grandmother, living the life I could have had if I'd just been brave enough to love myself. We sat in silence for a moment. I don't forgive you, I said finally. What you did to me was unforgivable. What you did to Big Mama was evil. And I hope every day of your sentence is difficult enough to make you really understand what you destroyed. I know, but I don't hate you anymore. Hate takes energy, and you're not worth it. You're just a sad woman who wasted her life on the wrong things. And now you have to live with that. I stood up. I came here to see if facing you would give me closure. It did. Not because you apologized, but because I can see clearly now that you were never the powerful person I thought you were. You were just weak, and I'm not. I turned to leave. Imani? Lorraine's voice stopped me. That scholarship fund, the one for dark-skinned girls, that's really beautiful. My grandmother would have loved that. I know, I said without turning around. Big Mama told me about her. That's why we named one of the scholarships after her. The Sarah Mae Johnson Memorial Scholarship for Dark-Skinned Women in Healthcare. I heard Lorraine sob behind me, but I kept walking. In the waiting area, Marcus stood as I approached. You good? Yeah, I'm good. One more visit, then we can go. They brought Deshaun in next. He looked worse than his mother, thinner with a black eye that was healing badly. Prison was clearly rough on him. He sat down and stared at me like he was seeing a ghost. Imani, his voice was hoarse. You came. I came, but not for the reason you think. I got your message. The one where you blocked me. I deserved that. He tried to smile. It didn't reach his eyes. You look amazing, like CEO amazing. I saw the gala on TV. The other guys in here were watching, and when you came on screen, someone said, "That's that woman whose husband tried to kill her grandmother." And I had to sit there and watch you be incredible while knowing I threw all that away. You didn't throw me away, Deshaun. You never had me. You had a woman you were using. The real me? You never even met her. He flinched. I know I messed up. You didn't mess up. You chose. Every day for 5 years, you chose to steal from me, to lie to me, to make me feel worthless while you lived off my money. Those weren't mistakes. Those were choices. I'm sorry. Stop. My voice was sharp. I don't care if you're sorry. I care about making sure what happened to me never happens to another woman. That's why I'm here. I need to understand what made you think it was okay. He was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, I thought you'd never leave. You were so desperate to be loved, so desperate to be part of a family, that I thought I could do anything and you'd stay. You'd keep working, keep giving, keep trying to earn what I should have been giving freely. He looked down at his hands. And the darker you were, the more country you sounded when you were tired, the more I thought I could get away with. Because society told me you should be grateful to have me. There it was. the ugly truth. But you weren't grateful, he continued. You were kind, and I mistook kindness for weakness. I thought someone as good as you couldn't also be strong. I was wrong. Yes, you were. For what it's worth, Jasmine left me, came to visit once after sentencing, told me she was engaged to some lawyer, and that I was the worst mistake she ever made. He laughed bitterly. Everyone's moved on except me. I'm stuck here, living with what I did, watching you succeed on TV, and knowing I could have been part of that. Could have had a wife who loved me, a grandmother who left me a fortune, a life that meant something. But you chose differently. I chose differently, he agreed. And now I've got 15 years to think about it. I stood. I hope you use that time well. I hope you actually become the person you're pretending to be right now. Because the man you were deserved exactly what he got. Imani, wait. He pressed his hand against the plexiglass. Do you think, after I get out, do you think we could ever— No. I didn't let him finish. We're done. We've been done. This visit is the last time you'll ever see me. I came here to close a chapter, not to reopen it. Can I at least know, are you happy? I thought about my life now. The job I loved, the team I led, the women we were helping, the legacy I was building, the freedom I felt every morning waking up in a house that was mine, in a life that was mine, with a future that was mine to write. Yes, I said simply, I'm happy. Happier than I ever was with you. I walked out of the prison and didn't look back. Marcus was waiting by the car. How do you feel? Free, I said. Finally, completely free. 6 months after the prison visits, I stood in the newly opened Delaney Community Health Center in Southwest Atlanta, the neighborhood where Big Mama had opened her first medical supply store in 1970. The center was beautiful. Modern equipment, comfortable waiting rooms, multilingual staff, and most importantly, free services for anyone who couldn't afford care. Ms. Robinson, a young woman, approached me nervously. She looked about 22, with dark skin and natural hair styled in braids. I'm sorry to bother you. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank me for what? For the scholarship. I'm Kiara Jenkins. I received the Imani Robinson Legacy Scholarship last year. It's paying for my nursing degree at Georgia State. Her eyes filled with tears. I work here part-time now, and every day I get to help people who look like my family, who couldn't afford care otherwise. Because of you. I hugged her, this young woman who reminded me of myself 5 years ago. You don't need to thank me. You earned that scholarship. You're earning your future. My mama worked 3 jobs my whole life, Kiara said. Cleaned houses, worked retail, did whatever she could. She's dark-skinned like me, and people treated her like she was invisible, like her work didn't matter. But she always told me I was beautiful, that I was smart, that I could be anything. She wiped her eyes. When I got the scholarship, when I saw your picture and read your story, I called her crying, because someone who looked like us was telling the world that we matter. You do matter. You always did. After Kiara left, I walked through the center, watching families receive care, watching elderly people get prescriptions they could afford, watching children laugh in the pediatric wing. This was the revenge Big Mama had wanted. Not suffering, transformation. My phone rang. I checked the caller ID and smiled. Dr. Williams, I answered. How are you? Imani, I have someone here who wants to speak with you. There was a shuffling sound, then a child's voice. Ms. Imani, this is Aliyah. Mama says you helped us. I wanted to say thank you for the medicine for my asthma. I can breathe good now. My heart melted. I'm so glad, sweetie. You keep taking care of yourself, okay? Okay, bye. Dr. Williams came back on the line. That's the 15th family this week who asked to thank you personally. You're making a real difference, Imani. After the call ended, I found myself in the memorial gallery we'd installed near the main entrance. Photographs lined the walls. Pictures of Big Mama throughout her life. Young Pearl in the 1960s, standing in front of her first store. Pearl in the 1980s, cutting the ribbon at her manufacturing facility. Pearl in the 2000s, receiving a business award. And finally, Pearl at 78, sitting in her living room with me beside her, both of us smiling at the camera. It had been taken a month before she died. Underneath that last photo was a plaque with her words, "Family isn't blood. It's who shows up when you're dying in the dark." I stood there for a long time, missing her wisdom, her strength, her ruthless determination to build something that mattered. She'd be proud of you. I turned to see Sterling Montgomery. He'd become more than my lawyer. He was a mentor, a friend, a father figure. I hope so. I know so. He stood beside me, looking at the photos. She called me 2 weeks before she died, told me she'd lived long enough to see justice served and love rewarded, said she could go in peace knowing you'd carry on her work. I'm trying. You're not trying. You're succeeding. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. She left you one more thing. I was instructed to give it to you 1 year after her death. Today's the day. I took the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter in Big Mama's distinctive handwriting. My dearest Imani, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Don't cry for me. I lived a full life and left this world with no regrets. I need you to understand why I chose you. It wasn't just because you showed me kindness. It was because I saw in you what I saw in myself at your age. A woman who'd been told she wasn't enough, who'd been underestimated, who'd been judged for things she couldn't control. I was dark-skinned in an era when that meant you cleaned houses or picked cotton, not ran companies. I was a woman in an era when that meant you supported your husband, not built your own empire. Every success I had came from refusing to accept what the world said I was worth. You have that same refusal in you, that same fire, that same determination to prove everyone wrong, not by talking, but by building. I'm giving you my company not because I pity you, but because I trust you. I'm giving you my legacy not because you need it, but because you'll honor it. I'm giving you my love not because you earned it, but because you deserve it. Use what I've given you to help others who are where you once were. Use your story to show women that betrayal doesn't have to destroy them. Use your success to prove that being underestimated is a gift. It means people won't see you coming. And remember, revenge isn't about destruction. It's about transformation. It's about taking everything they said you couldn't be and becoming it anyway. Live well, my daughter. That's the greatest revenge of all. With all my love, Pearl. I folded the letter carefully, tears streaming down my face. Sterling handed me his pocket square wordlessly. She knew, I said. She knew exactly what I needed to hear. She always did. That was her gift. We stood together in that gallery, surrounded by images of a woman who'd refused to be broken, who'd built an empire from nothing, who'd transformed pain into purpose. And I realized that's exactly what I was doing too. That night, I hosted a dinner at the house, the beautiful house that Big Mama had transformed. My team was there. Dr. Price and her husband, Marcus and his wife, Sterling and his partner. We ate good food, told stories about Big Mama, and planned our next community health center. As the night wound down and guests began to leave, I stood on the back porch looking at the city lights. Marcus joined me, silent and steady as always. You ever think about dating again? He asked casually. Why? You know someone? Maybe. My cousin teaches at Morehouse. Economics professor. Smart, kind, nothing like your ex. I don't know if I'm ready. You don't have to be ready. You just have to be open to the possibility. He paused. You spent 5 years with someone who made you smaller. Don't spend the rest of your life alone because of it. I thought about that, about the possibility of love that built instead of destroyed, partnership instead of exploitation. Someone who celebrated my success instead of resenting it. Tell me about him, I said. Marcus smiled. His name is Malcolm. He's 41, never been married, loves jazz and cooking. He's about 6'2", dark skin like us, beard that's going gray at the edges. And before you ask, yes, I vetted him. No criminal record, no debt, no angry exes, no skeletons. Just a good man who deserves a good woman. And you think that's me? I know that's you. 3 weeks later, I met Malcolm for coffee at a small cafe in Midtown. He was exactly as Marcus described, tall, handsome in an understated way, with intelligent eyes and an easy smile. We talked for 3 hours. He didn't know who I was at first, didn't recognize me from the news, just saw a woman having coffee and struck up a conversation about the book I was reading. When I finally told him, his eyebrows rose. "You're that Imani Robinson, the CEO? Is that a problem?" "No, just impressive and intimidating," he laughed. "I teach economics. You run a nearly billion-dollar company. Not sure what I'd bring to that table. How about we start with conversation and see where it goes?" We talked about everything. His research into economic inequality in Black communities, my work expanding healthcare access, his love of jazz, my newfound appreciation for opera, Big Mama's influence, his complicated relationship with his father, my journey from broken to whole. He didn't treat me like a victim or a CEO. He treated me like Imani, just Imani. By the end of coffee, I had his number. By the end of the week, we had a second date. By the end of the month, I was thinking this might be something real, something healthy, something built on truth instead of lies. 2 years later, the venue was the Atlanta History Center, and it was packed with 500 people in their finest attire. Not for a gala this time, for a wedding. My wedding. I stood in the bridal suite, looking at myself in the full-length mirror. The wedding dress was custom-made, a stunning creation in ivory silk that complemented my dark skin beautifully. My natural hair was styled in elegant locks, adorned with pearls and gold. I looked like royalty. I felt like myself. "You ready?" Dr. Price asked. She was my matron of honor. The woman who taught me to be a CEO was now helping me into my wedding shoes. "I'm ready." The ceremony was outside in the gardens. Malcolm stood at the altar in a tailored suit, looking nervous and happy and perfect. His family filled the groom's side, warm, welcoming people who'd accepted me immediately. My side was filled with a different kind of family, the team from Delaney Healthcare, the scholarship recipients whose lives we changed, the community members from Southwest Atlanta who'd known Big Mama for decades. And in the front row, in the seat of honor, was a large portrait of Big Mama in an ornate frame. She couldn't be there in person, but her presence filled the space anyway. As I walked down the aisle, alone, because I didn't need anyone to give me away, I belonged to myself. I caught sight of something that made me pause. In the far back, behind all the guests, two women stood watching from a distance. They weren't invited. They weren't supposed to be here, but they'd come anyway. One was Kiara, my first scholarship recipient, now a registered nurse. The other was Aaliyah, the little girl with asthma, now healthy and thriving. They held a banner between them. "Thank you for showing us we matter." My vision blurred with tears, but I kept walking. Malcolm met me at the altar, taking my hands in his. His grip was steady, certain, real. "Dearly beloved," the minister began, but I was barely listening to the words. I was thinking about the journey that had brought me here. 5 years ago, I'd been broken, exploited, convinced I was worthless. Today, I was CEO of a major corporation. I was helping thousands of women. I was marrying a man who saw my value and celebrated it. I was living a life that felt like freedom. Do you, Imani Marie Robinson, take Malcolm James Chen to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. And do you, Malcolm James Chen, take Imani Marie Robinson to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Malcolm leaned in, and as his lips touched mine, I heard the crowd erupt in applause and cheers. At the reception, surrounded by people who loved me for who I truly was, I gave a toast. 5 years ago, I came home from work and found a woman dying in the dark. She looked at me and said, "Help me get revenge." I thought she meant punish the people who hurt us. But I was wrong. I raised my glass, looking around the room at faces filled with love and support. The revenge she wanted wasn't about making them suffer. It was about living, really living, building something beautiful from the ashes of betrayal, showing the world that kindness isn't weakness, that being underestimated is an opportunity, and that the best way to defeat your enemies is to become someone they can never touch again. I looked at Big Mama's portrait. Pearl Delaney Sterling taught me that family isn't blood. It's who shows up when you're dying in the dark. It's who fights for you when you can't fight for yourself. It's who believes in your worth when everyone else is blind. My voice strengthened. To everyone in this room, you are my family. Every scholarship recipient, every community member, every person we've helped. You're all part of this story. This revenge story that became a love story, this tragedy that became a triumph. I raised my glass higher, to Pearl, to new beginnings, to the truth that morning always comes, no matter how dark the night, and to living so well that your joy becomes undeniable. To living well, the crowd echoed. As the night wore on and guests danced and celebrated, I found a quiet moment on the terrace overlooking the gardens. Malcolm joined me, wrapping his arms around me from behind. Happy? He asked. More than I ever thought possible. Good. That's all I want. Forever. We stood there watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and purple. In the distance, the city lights of Atlanta began to twinkle to life. Somewhere in a prison, two people were living with the consequences of their choices. Part of me wondered if they ever thought about this moment, if they watched the news and saw my success and felt regret. But mostly I didn't think about them at all. They didn't deserve space in my happiness. My phone buzzed, a text from the Delaney Healthcare emergency line. A family in East Atlanta needed immediate assistance. Their child had a medical crisis and no insurance. I need to make a call, I told Malcolm. I know, go. I'll be here when you're done. I stepped away and made the call, arranging for the family to be taken care of, for the bills to be covered, for the child to get the treatment she needed. When I returned to Malcolm, he was smiling. You can't help yourself, can you? Even on your wedding day. Would you want me any other way? Never. That's why I love you. We went back to the reception, back to our family, back to our life. And as I danced with my husband under the stars, surrounded by love I'd earned and built and chosen, I thought about Big Mama's letter one more time. Revenge isn't about destruction, it's about transformation. I had been transformed, from victim to victor, from nurse to CEO, from broken to whole, and every day I was transforming others, giving them the tools, the resources, the belief that they deserved better. That was the revenge Big Mama wanted, not punishment, liberation, and I was going to spend the rest of my life delivering it. The story of the old woman who faked her death to expose her family's betrayal had ended, but the story of the woman who rose from those ashes, that story was just beginning.